We live in a world where we can swipe, scroll, and stream our way through infinite versions of other people's lives, yet many of us still lie awake at night, asking the same silent question: who am I, really? It's one of the oldest questions in human history, whispered across ancient temples, shouted in moments of crisis, and quietly pondered over morning coffee. And depending on where you look, you'll get very different answers. Psychology might say you are your thoughts, your memories, your patterns of attachment or personality traits. Neuroscience might tell you that you are the firing of neurons and the interpretation of stimuli. But spiritual traditions around the world have pointed towards something far more mysterious, something deeper and more liberating. The idea that who you are is not what you do, what you think, or even what you feel, but the awareness behind all of that. In ancient Vedanta philosophy, there is a beautiful phrase, Neti Neti, meaning, not this, not that. You are not your name, your body, your job, your emotions. You are the observer, the witness, pure consciousness. It's a difficult concept to wrap our minds around because the mind is used to labeling and defining everything, including itself. But even modern science is beginning to echo some of these insights. Cognitive neuroscientist Anil Seth explains that our experience of the self is largely a controlled hallucination, constructed in the brain. But that doesn't mean it's meaningless. It means that what we call I is more fluid than we think. In Buddhism, the idea of anatta or non-self says something similar, that the self is impermanent, ever-changing, and more like a process than a thing. Imagine a river. You can point to it and say, that's the Ganges. But the water you touch now isn't the same water from a moment ago. The river keeps flowing, and so do we. Now let's ground this in everyday experience. Have you ever caught yourself doing something and then thought, why did I just do that? Maybe snapping at someone you love or sabotaging a good opportunity. That moment, the one where you observe your own behavior, is a glimpse into the inner mirror. The part of you that's watching, that's aware, is different from the part that's reacting. This is where psychodynamic theory chimes in, particularly object relations theory, which says that much of our adult identity is shaped by internalized versions of early caregivers. That means we carry invisible voices inside us, like the critical mother, the absent father, the teacher who believed in us, and they shape how we see ourselves. But here's the twist. Just because these voices are inside us doesn't mean they are us. That's why practices like therapy, journaling, or meditation can feel so powerful. They help us separate the noise from the signal, the roles we've been given from the essence we truly are. Speaking of roles, let's talk about trauma. Many people define themselves by what happened to them: abuse, neglect, loss. And while these experiences absolutely shape our nervous systems, they are not the totality of who we are. Trauma rewires the brain, yes, but neuroplasticity means we can also rewire it back. This is where healing becomes a rediscovery of self. Clinical psychologist Dr. Gabor Mate often says, trauma is not what happens to you. It's what happens inside you as a result of what happens to you. That inner wound, that distortion of self, is what keeps people stuck in false identities. But it can be healed. Now, if we zoom out, every culture has tried to answer the question of identity in its own way. Indigenous traditions often see identity as relational, not just who you are, but how you're connected to your tribe, the land, the ancestors. In contrast, the modern Western world emphasizes the individual, your resume, your brand, your achievements. No wonder so many people feel alone and anxious. We've replaced the village with a feed. In today's social media landscape, identity has become performative. We curate highlight reels, chase followers, and measure worth by engagement metrics. But deep down, there's still that aching question. If no one was watching, who would I be? Now here's where things get really interesting. Let's bring in the concept of qualia, a term from philosophy of mind that refers to the raw feel of subjective experience. The redness of red, the sting of heartbreak, the joy of a sunset. These can't be fully explained by science. They are lived. And what if who you really are is not your thoughts about life, but the one who experiences all of it? That silent experiencer is the same across joy and sorrow, childhood and old age, success and failure. That's the spiritual self, unchanging, witnessing. In Christianity, this is the soul. In Sufism, it's the beloved. In Zen, it's simply suchness. Let's come back to the brain for a second. Neuroscience can now identify brain regions associated with the default mode network, active when we are thinking about ourselves. But what's fascinating is that in long-term meditators, this network quiets down. The chatter of me and mine fades, and what remains is presence. Stillness. In one study, MRI scans of Tibetan monks showed drastically reduced activity in this network during deep meditation. That's not just religious mumbo-jumbo, it's observable, and it means that what we call I might be more silent than noisy, more space than substance. Even in everyday life, you felt this. Have you ever been so immersed in music, art, or nature that you forgot yourself entirely? That's not losing yourself. That might be your truest self, showing up without the usual commentary. But here's the tension. We live in a culture that monetizes identity confusion. Marketing thrives on you feeling like you're not enough. The beauty industry says, you're not pretty enough. The productivity world says, you're not successful enough. So you keep buying, striving, comparing. And the tragedy is that you may never stop to ask, who am I without all this? Let me share a quick story. A friend of mine, a high-powered tech exec, once told me that every night before bed, he would stare at the ceiling and feel this pit of emptiness. Not depression, not anxiety, just a hollow space. He had the money, the recognition, the achievements, but no idea who he really was. It wasn't until he spent 10 silent days at a Vipassana retreat, with no phone, no books, no talking, just breath and body awareness, that he began to peel back the layers. He said it felt like standing in front of a mirror that reflected not his face, but his being. That's the inner mirror. Now, not all of us can, or want to, go off into the woods or meditate for hours. And that's okay. You can meet your real self in the messy middle of daily life. When you pause before reacting, when you speak the truth even when it's scary, when you sit with your child and just listen, when you ask yourself not, what do I want to do, but what do I want to become? That's soul work, and it doesn't need a guru or a doctrine, just curiosity, presence, and a little courage. Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But in a world that profits from your confusion, becoming your true self is an act of rebellion. It means shedding inherited beliefs, breaking identity molds, and learning to sit with the silence. That silence is not emptiness, it's space. The space in which life unfolds, unfiltered. And maybe, just maybe, that's who you really are. Not the storm, but the sky that holds it.